People, don't drink cereal. I mean, don't eat cereal in the morning if it causes you a phlegm in your throat, and then try to come on live. Dairy products, what does that, I believe. Good morning, people. My friends feel it's their appointed duty. They keep trying to tell me that I ought not to let you just walk on me. And I'm sure they mean well. Hell, but then I tell them to. I say, brother, if you only knew what you would wish that you was in my shoes. So just keep on using me. Until you use me up. Hey, those are called fillers. So y'all get in. People, yesterday I stumbled into a live, a StreamYard live, right? Now, I don't do a lot of those because the screaming and yelling, it drives me nuts. I've had plenty of opportunity to have StreamYard myself, but I've declined because of the way it's so hard to handle it, keep it on track. It always seems to devolve into all this yelling and screaming. But I stumbled into one yesterday. Forgive all the burping, people. I'm trying to get myself together. I believe it was Brianna Simone's live, and there have several people on there. I think Kwani was on there, and James Caldwell was on there, and of course Bree was on there, and who else was a person? A lot of people were on there, and they were discussing this thing of this homophobia. And I believe Connie was making the argument that she was not afraid of homosexuals, so therefore she was not a homophobic, right? So it made me, I paused, but like I said, they start screaming. I can't deal with too much of that, baby. I'm sorry. I just can't hang in there because I can't understand what's going on, right? Today I click on and I see that someone else who shall remain nameless for just for a second though, because you know I'm using the name. They were on here saying that, oh yeah, Olivia the Oracle was on there as well. And this person named Pie Monster was on her page, and she was saying that Olivia the Oracle had a lot of nerve calling Kwani homophobic, since Kwani had learned homophobia from her. In other words, she's saying that like a year ago, Olivia the Oracle was making homophobic or similar type comments herself a year ago. Right? And she invoked the name of Timothy Blaine, of course. So that's why I'm invoking hers. And she said that it got so bad because apparently Olivia the Oracle had made a not too complimentary video about Billy Porter wearing a dress to the Oscars, I believe was the topic. And I had been so enraged at that time that I had actually made a video addressing Olivia the Oracle and calling her a homophobic, right? Now, I remember that interaction. I want you to understand something, Pie Monster. Because someone says they're homophobic, we don't want you to die. We don't want you to die. We want you to get better. We want your understanding to grow, right? And that's what happens. If you encounter people, see a lot of people, the same thing with prejudice, racism and stuff like that. A lot of racist people, they maybe with one black guy in their life in these towns that they come from, right? They don't know any. They don't know any, honey. They whenever they see them, it's always them against us, them on the wrong side of the track, me on the right side of the track, kind of thing, right? So as they get into the real world or they move to the big cities, you see how the racism it declines as people interact with each other. There are more interracial relationships, and that's what those people are so afraid of. That people, if they got to know black people, they might want to mate with them, and then it would depurify the race and all this bullshit, right? But the point is, the more you encounter people, the more you get to know those people. You should say, well, you know what? I know that gay guy. He's okay. I like him. Or I know that lesbian woman. She's fine. She's a nice lady. It'd be terrible if somebody hurt her feelings, right? So the more we interact, that's one thing that this YouTube thing does. It makes us interact with people that ordinarily we might not have interacted with. So we want you to grow. We don't mind that Olivia is not saying those kind of statements anymore. That doesn't bother us, honey. So it's not a negative thing, you hideous monster, fire monster, you. But use that. And saying that if Olivia the Oracle was a bigot then, or she was a homophobe then her understanding should stay the same forever, for life. Very much like the people who follow Donald Trump. Forever. They don't want to grow shit. Make America great again. They want to go backwards, not forwards, honey. So the world keeps progressing forward. God designed us to be progressive, honey. Right? A lot of us have said things in the past that we don't want it held to our present lives. Our understanding has changed. We have progressed. We are progressive people. In other words, we get smarter, not dumber. Okay? So anyway, here was the subject. This homophobia thing. Miss 20 says, I ain't no homophobic because I ain't scared of y'all. You don't get no scared of me about what you do with your dick and all this kind of stuff, right? I'm gonna tell you a couple of little stories about I know it's early, but I'm gonna speak to y'all in 1 second. I got it before the brain cells start disintegrating. I got to get this off. I'll tell you the most recent story I heard first. There's this kid. We had a mentorship program for young people at our church, right? Our church is LGBTQ people primarily. And we had a mentorship program for some of these kids that are coming out, they're confused, and they maybe need a little guidance, right? So there's one kid who was born and raised here in San Francisco, right? He lived up in the hills. His parents had means. But to get down into the town, they live up in Diamond Heights. They had to come through the Castro, right? These were at a time when, it was all before AIDS, where it was just gay everywhere, all over the Castro, right? Everything was gay and all this kind of stuff. And this boy said that when he came off the hill to go through the Castro to get to downtown or to even get to school, his parents would take his head and push it into the car so that he would not see the homosexuals. That is phobia, correct? Because they are afraid of homosexuality. Why are they afraid? They're afraid that their son might turn gay if he was exposed to gay, right? Now, that's not a normal thing. Maybe in some of these smaller places it is, but in a city like San Francisco, particularly San Francisco, they were afraid of it. And what we found out was the boy was already gay. You see, that's why they were afraid, because they knew, mothers know, honey, I don't give a damn. People, they always deny it. My mama denied it for years and years and years, right? I didn't know. I had no idea. You did. That's why you were so afraid. And you felt like you had to push his head down in the car so he wouldn't see no homosexual, because you were afraid of it. You were afraid of your son becoming homosexual. He was already homosexual, and you were afraid of it. You didn't want him to have that influence, right? Only one example, the one I was exposed to most. That was the guy in our mentorship program, right? And when he told me that, it brought back memories of my own experience. Because I started working at 15. So at 16 and a half, I took this other job. I was working, first of all, for a theater, a couple of restaurants, and then teenager, moving around. I got this job, which I thought would be a good job, at the athletic club in downtown Indianapolis, Indiana, right? The athletic club. This was a club that even in the 70s was still segregated. Still had all white members, and pretty much everybody who worked there was black, right? But what I didn't know, and what my mother didn't know, was the people who worked for the athletic club were notorious in Indiana for one thing. After I started my job, I think I was there 2 days. She got on her friend with her girlfriends. My mother was a single woman, so she had girlfriends. They get on and gossip all night, right? No offense, ladies. Her girlfriends had told her Oh, ain't nothing but faggots work there. Excuse my language. That slipped out. Nothing but gays. Let's keep it nice. Nothing but gays. Oh, they all gonna work there. Now, my mother, she said, we never had no discussion on homosexuality, but there were certainly clues and hints all through my life, because I knew I was gay at 8 years old, right? Now I was 15 years old. So this has been going on for quite a while. Never discussed, never acknowledged anything like that, right? But when those ladies told my mother that the athletic club employed homosexuals in their kitchens and in their service and in their housekeeping, my mother got in her car, no discussion with me. She came down to the athletic club. This is my second or third day on the job. She came down to the athletic club, walked into the office, and told the manager of the place, I quit. They had to come and get me out of the kitchen. I don't remember, I was a busboy. I had something to do in the kitchen. They came and got me out of the kitchen and brought me into the office where my mother could officially quit me from my job. Why? Because there were homosexuals that worked in the kitchen. She was afraid of it. Why was she afraid of it? Because she knew deep down in her soul that her son was a homosexual. And she was afraid of it. She didn't want to influence him, right? Same thing we get in the church. They homophobic. He said, well, what are they afraid of? I mean, it comes back. It's the word is phobia, homophobia. They're afraid. They're afraid that if they accept the reality, the nature of a homosexual, if they accept that, then their children will turn gay. It will become an option for them. They actually believe that homosexuality is transferable, right? Never mind now that all the homosexuals I've met so far, their children ain't gay. I think I met one couple that the son was gay. Most of the children, they still heterosexual. I mean, or whatever. It's not determined by what the parents were. Their kids are not necessarily the same thing. A lot of people will tell you, if they're honest enough to say to you, my father is gay. That ain't got nothing to do with the kid being gay, even if they're raised in the same damn house. You see, it's not transferable, but people are afraid of it. They're going to take over. Many of the ones, the hardcore homophobes will say it. They will make it plain. They're going to take over. My sweet grandmother, who I love dearly, who's passed on now. When I first converted to Christianity, I was a jailhouse Christian, jailhouse conversion. And I told her that, okay, I was starting to go to church now, and I believed in God, and God has delivered me. My language changed from God can deliver me to God has delivered me. And she said, oh, don't go, wait, what church you gonna go to? Oh, don't go to none of their churches. Now, I'm a 40-something-year-old man at this point, right? Don't go to none of their churches. No, grandmother, it's not their churches, honey. It's our churches. People, it's not transferable, right? It's not transferable. So this is homophobia. There's many reasons. There are other theories. When we are little kids, right? We're just talking here. When we're little kids, many of us, whether we want to admit it or not, have played with our little friends. A little bit, little kid stuff. I did when I was 8 years old, something like that. And this is before, of course, I knew what a homosexual was, but we played around a little bit, kind of thing. I had a little friend there where we played around with 8 years old, kind of thing. But as we became real people, we were no longer children. We were preteens. Like, this man started hating me, right? We had stopped doing that thing years ago, right? I noticed that not only did he hate me, he hated all the gays. He's one of the ones that picked on the gays constantly, all that kind of stuff. And I knew when I saw him picking on these gay people, that I was not out as a teenager. I didn't appear to be homosexual, right? But he hated me and he hated all the gays. And he picked on them. He was a bully, right? And I knew. I said, well, that's strange because we used to have sex all the time. I mean, it wasn't real sex. It was playing with each other and stuff like that. But That man was so afraid of becoming a homosexual that he carried that on into his teenage years. I would imagine probably into his adult years, because he was so afraid of what lies in him, right? He was so afraid of what he had done. He resented it, and he resented me, because there's no reason for him to turn on me. He knew what we had done. It scared him. And so if we are all humans, and we've all had some kind of thought, maybe you were just close to your friend when you were a kid or whatever, and you were kind of, what is this? What is this kind of thing? And you even questioned for a moment. You might still be questioning it in your teens and in your 20s. You be saying, no, I know, no, Sam, I am. I would not touch those green eggs and ham. Right? It is fear. It is fear of what lies inside of yourself. Now, don't get this the wrong way or anything. Please don't take this the wrong way, what I'm about to say. But people who have been touched are molested. People who have been touched are molested. It's not that it's just that they just hate all homosexuals. It's they are afraid because they're concerned, because they had this experience, that they could become a homosexual. Or was there something in it that they liked about the person? Or maybe they just thought the person was nice and had nothing to do with it. They didn't know what sex was, right? But it makes them always question. And so they hate it. They hate the very idea of it. Yes, a lot of it is resentment because someone touched them. And a lot of it is fear. It is fear because what could lie inside of my own self? So this is what a lot of people are connecting with. Fear. That's where the word, the phobia comes from. They're afraid that it's transferable. Something I could be influenced by a homosexual to have homosexual experience, because you know at some point in your mind you have thought about it, at least entertain the idea of it, and it repulsed you, right? Okay, let's take a break. My jaw's starting to hurt. Hey, Sharon Morrison, Gemini, Aries. Oh, y'all were pretty names today. Gemini, Aries. Y'all can be rap music. Mocha Drop. Hi, everybody. How y'all doing, Lisa Jackson? Greetings. Hi, Lisa. I haven't seen you in a while. Behind the Throne. We're just talking, people. But the subject of this homophobia thing, I thought was so interesting to me. And then her over there taking such a pleasure. She even played the video of Olivia talking this shit about Billy Porter. Now, come on, people. It's unusual that a man wore a dress to the Grammy. Are we going to pretend that a man wearing a dress to the what do you call it? Academy Awards, it was an unusual thing? It's not. I'm not trying to defend it. I'm just saying we shouldn't be out here pretending like a man wearing a ball gown to the Academy Awards wasn't an unusual event, right? So she played that video of her talking shit about this man, the demasculation of whatever, all of this stuff that they talk over there in the conscious section. And then she played my response to her. She remembered that I had a response to that. And so, how did she go and research that? Did she just have it in her mind and she remembered that I had a response to that? Well, I even told Olivia years later, this last couple of months, I said, we had a problem a few months ago. She said, I don't even remember what that was. I don't take things personal, whatever, kind of thing like that. We don't want you to get worse. We want you to get better, honey. So if you are not saying the same things you were saying a year ago, I think that's progress. I see it as progress, honey. A lot of people on here could stand with some progression. Tracy. Hi, Tracy. How you doing? Hi, 4MB King. With the Mighty Mouse. I see your emoji. Manpower. King of Kings, Lord of Lords. Okay, Marcia, Cleveland. My friend Walter was molested by his stepdad. He's gay, but he didn't blame his stepdad. He only blamed his mother for staying with a guy after he knew about the incident. Right. Molestation, I mean, that's ain't no way to make it right. It's totally wrong. And you can't affect people. I used to, when I was tweeting, I used to be with this guy. We were sex kind of guy. I only did with him twice. I couldn't deal with it anymore after that. But when we started having sex, while we were having sex, he started crying. I said, what the fuck? What kind of damaged individual is this? Obviously, this boy had been abused and he was damaged goods. So even though he was drawn to, he wants to have sex with men, it made him cry over and over and over again. So I think that what was happening there is he was reliving it. So you fuck up people's minds, you fuck up their brains. Even when they were interviewing all those people, when they had those big sex scandals with the Catholic Church, those people didn't seem regular, did they? When the subject, it still put a crease in their brow. 30 years later, 40 years later, you don't go fucking with the innocence of adolescence. Let people grow up and become who they are naturally. Because if you get molested, you don't know where that came from. Honey, if you are a full-grown homosexual and you know that you were molested in your youth, you do not know where that came from. Was it because I was molested? Is this natural or is it nurture? It confuses your brain, honey. So yes, I have a strong disdain, which I suspect would be pretty much everybody, about interfering with the adolescent brain, a child's mind, sexually. When I was in San Quentin, you could be an axe murderess or axe murderer and be on the main yard in a couple of years, right? One thing you couldn't do and be in San Quentin, you could not have touched no children, honey. You cannot be a child molester and be on the main. You will be locked up separate forever. That's how badly people feel about child molesters, right? You could be anything else, pimps, bank robbers, murderers, whatever. As long as you want no child molester, honey. I behind the throne. Larry Reed, Kirk Franklin. Yeah, Larry Reed. He was molested. Was Kirk Franklin molested as well? A lot of people have. But it doesn't always stem from that, because a lot of times the homophobia is not coming from the kids. I mean, to some degree it is. If you ever had a thought like that, or you ever wondered about your friend or something like that, then you're going to probably be homophobic for at least some period of your life. People who are not insecure about that kind of thing, they don't give a shit. Honey, I knew real gangsters, real ones. They did not give a goddamn about me being gay. What did the guy do with him? They were more about chasing skirts for themselves. But they didn't have that particular issue. It is a particular issue. You can see it when you meet somebody and they identify that you are gay. Yeah, man, yeah. It's different. The person amazing. Billy behind the throne says Billy Porter is amazing in any lane that he travels in, period. Right. So he's a trailblazer. So it's something new. Yes, we keep getting better, people. We ain't supposed to stay the same. We are not supposed to stay the same as these people in the Bible. See, that's the issue that I have with the Bible. Don't get mad. Don't click off. Hold on. Let me get this thought out. People are progressive. We get smarter. We get better. We get cell phones. We get airplanes. We get all kinds of shit, right? People progress. They constantly get progress. Their knowledge gets more and more expanded. But when you put something in a book, thousands of years, the book doesn't change. You see, you made it reality because it's written in a book. But if it wasn't written in a book, then what would be the attitudes now? Most of the argument about homosexuality is about the book. But you see, the book is locked in time. They may interpret different countries, different cities, different organizations, interpret the thing, but basically the book is the same. So they always argue. So you can only get so mad at these preachers because their job or their assignment is to preach the book. But is the book really preaching God, or is it preaching the experiences of God in these people, these ancient people? You see what I'm saying? That's why I believe that the Bible is used in such harsh and unintelligent ways. because it doesn't change. You lock something in a book, it's forever. Correct? If it's written as nonfiction, that has been what has held us back so long. But there have been tremendous strides. The world is getting better. And this country, I mean, people always talking all this shit about America, but I got to say, before we got gay marriage, damn near every state had already approved gay marriage, honey. We're all growing. We're all growing. People who cling too close to the book, they ain't going nowhere. Yeah, Billy Porter's a man. He should be doing what he's doing. I mean, he's a trailblazer. So somebody's got to lead the way, right? A lot of gay rights have started with drag queens. The most marginalized people. So they've been out front where you can see it. It's not like a hidden thing. God says sin is a sin, says Tracy. So that means, wow, wait a minute. The Bible also says, if your eyes cause you to sin, pluck them out. For it is far better to walk around with no eyes than to walk around in sin. The Bible says a lot of stuff, baby. Take it in context. Take it in context, people. I mean, we do not even apply the same morality to people did in the 1920s. All them long dresses and them corsets and them long stockings, many of the things that we accepted as like, I mean, people in the 1920s, they didn't cheat on their wives like they do now. They were a lot more Puritan in the 1800s than they are now. So we supposed to stay in 1800s because they're more Puritan? We're progressive. The world keeps moving forward. Now they done put some motherfucker on the... He's not a motherfucker. They put somebody... What did they put? A person or was it the machine? On Mars. Right? So what does the future hold, honey? What does the future hold? Are we supposed to stay back here in these little churches, girl, and reading the same passages again and trying to duplicate something that ain't got nothing to do with you? Two men talking in the desert 7,000 years ago. That is what you hold on to now. It's something that God is saying to you. Let me not get off on some biblical tangent. Please. We will all be judged for what we did. Tracy, I didn't know you had so much religion in you. Tracy said we will all be judged for what we have done. Tracy, then what is the point of the Christ? If the Christ died for the sin of this world, if our salvation is not tied to our own actions, but tied to this blood sacrifice of Jesus Christ, then what is the point of Jesus Christ? If we're all going to be judged by everything that we do, you can't make it through a day without lusting after somebody, people. Somebody fine walk by you with them triceps, biceps, hairy chest, you just sinned. So are you again supposed to pluck your eyes out? And do you believe that after you pluck those eyeballs out, you are not still capable of sin? You see? For me, it's a personal thing. You can go and read passages in the Bible and it gives you comfort. It makes you feel connected to God, whatever. Just let it be personal. Let it be personal because there's a story there to back up everything. When you go to a mental hospital where people have been sentenced there to institution for the criminally insane, do you know the one thing those people have in common? All the nuts, all the lunatics, people who have killed people who have committed arson, who have burned up babies, all the things. You know what they all have in common? They all know scripture. I mean, it is amazing. But they are all, it seems like, at least when it's presented to us, they all seem to know scripture. They all seem to know the Bible. And they can attach to one line in that Bible. It's just like when people put black people in slavery. They put black people in slavery because the Bible had slaves. Oh, we don't know about that. We talking about homosexuals. Girl, indentured slavery all through the Bible. They took that. Oh, that means Bible is good. You remember when God said, remember when Jesus said, slaves, obey your masters. You said it right there in the book. So should we still be having slaves? Because it said that on that one line in the book, somebody said that even if it is the Christ, said that in the book 6, 7, 8,000 years ago. Or they say it's 6, well, whatever. That's why that was their argument. When you see the Klan marching, they holding up crosses, honey. They're not holding up no devil signs. They holding up crosses. This is the righteousness of God to hang you. Heat flame. What? Heat flashes. Oh my goodness. They had a lot of clothes back then. Well, actually, we have made all this clothing stuff very important in modern society, right? But if you look at the great artists, there's none in here. But in my living room, I have a lot of Renaissance art. And then artists, most of them Europeans, they did art about biblical times or whatever. None of them have any clothes on. Most of them are naked. I wish I could. I don't have that in here. That's funny. I thought I would have. Those angels up there, they ain't got no clothes on. But in there, I mean, a lot of, if you look at the real, these artworks, they go for $100 million and stuff like that. Most of it is biblical art. They're all naked. We came up with that shit. Solomon had 600 wives. Now you got more than one, then you're an adulterer. How did I slip off into this Bible stuff? I need to get back into church. I'm becoming a heathen. There's great wisdom there. Anything that was true thousands of years ago and it's still true today, that's speaking to human character. So there are many. Hope it ain't too loud. They're working on the tracks out there. Many things that were true thousands of years ago about human character are still true today. So a lot of the stories that they use, and even Jesus told you these stories are not true. You see that this is these are metaphors, honey. What's the word they used to use? Not metaphor. What's the word when you use a story to tell a story to make a point, but it's not necessarily a true story, like the prodigal son? There was a man who went off, kind of thing. Well, those were not real stories. Most theologians will say that that didn't actually happen. It was a metaphor used to describe a certain principles. Why do you talk? Who is this? It said, teacher, why do you talk in? It's not metaphors. What's the other word? Parables. You people so smart. Thank you, strong love. Parables. So Christ, our Christ, the one we worship, he spoke oftentimes in parables. The story didn't actually have to be true. He's just telling you a principle and using it in a story to make people understand, so they can still understand thousands of years later. They'll still be and understand the same story. Parables. Oh, hello, Gamage Carter. I might have known you would pop up when I start talking about the Bible. But that's Bible. That's Bible. Baby, when I was in that prison, I got so wrapped up in that Bible. Because I had to understand. I had been told since I was a little bitty pickaninny that the Bible, the main thing in the Bible was homosexuality. You think I'm lying, honey? I had to go up in there with fear and trembling. And when I discovered, okay, we're talking about 2 or 3 lines in the Old Testament, and then 3 or 4 lines in the New Testament, and then you talking about Sodom and Gomorrah. I mean, was the sin of Sodom really homosexuality? Didn't these demons, didn't they rape the angels as well? The female angels? Weren't they just raping everybody? They turned that into a story about homosexuality. No, that wasn't the sin of Sodom. I think it was inhospitality to strangers, because God sent angels, and these fools wanted to fuck the angels. But they turned it into, they're homosexuals. They were screwing everybody, everything that moved, honey. And the man sent his daughters out there to be raped. to protect the angels. So how the hell did they get to be a story about homosexuality? Because some of the people were men. They did the same thing to the women. Why didn't you then make that sin? People, don't get me to preaching, because I ain't got no lick of education in them scriptures. All right? We've all been exposed since we were little bitty babies. All right, right. Okay, behind the throne. Exactly. Who is that? They had a saint who is, his skin is dark, his skin is black. What saint was that? So if it was him, I doubt he was the only one, but they have stripped it, made everybody look like them. So I believe that. But there is a very dark skinned black saint. What's his name? I should probably read what you said first. Okay. Let me try to stay. Okay. Marcia Cleveland, Behind the Throne. Exactly. The Roman Church has hidden art from Jesus' time depicting black people as saints. Okay. We all know about the Ethiopian eunuch, right? So those would probably be trans people of that time. But from what we understand, they made them transgender. They didn't choose to be transgender. They castrated them and made them useless to women so they could have them around their wives. Let me see. Tracy knows that word. Let me go and get another word for Tracy. I'll be right back. Behind the Throne. Hold on. Parables, not parodies, Tracy. Not parodies. Did she say that intentionally? Humans call on God when it suits them. Exactly. And then every other week, y'all watch Larry Reed. He's starting to do it again. Every other week, or lately every week, these pastors, you done found out they've been screwing the people in the congregation. They got babies outside of wedlock. They ain't paying child support. Why should that even be a discussion that you're not paying your child support? And you're the same ones that have been talking all this shit about the gay people, honey. Isn't adultery mentioned many, many, many more times than homosexuality? I mean, the amount of writings on homosexuality, I mean, it is almost laughable when you get in there. Because I was looking, baby. Believe me, I was looking night and day. Got me working day and night. Hold on. When I was in that cell, we would have lockdowns that last for a month. You couldn't come out. They throw the food under the cage. I'm gonna go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I said, okay, I got to Leviticus. Okay. I would look and look and look and look at. No more discussion of these things now. Now, if they were writing it today, they would probably make something going on between Jonathan and David. David, the one we have all over everywhere. He said he loved Jonathan more than he loved women. Now, that could be an innocent relationship between two men. It sounds like it could be more, depends on the interpretation. But the interpretation 2,000 years ago was certainly not the interpretation you would come to, or the conclusions you would come to if you were telling the story today. And since so many of these stories were told hundreds of years after the event, it was strongly influenced by who was telling the story. Correct? Caligula, bring in the girls and the boys. Since it exists in nature, people, that's all it is accepting nature. It said, let me take my nose out of the book now and look around me. Right? Acorns grow from that tree. Acorn, this is an acorn tree. Now, if the Bible says that the acorn tree grows bananas, does that change the fact that acorns are growing from the tree? It's nature. You can't base everything on what you read in the ancient texts. I'm not saying throwing away the ancient texts, because the ancient texts brought me to deliverance, honey. It brought me to faith, to belief. So I can't say that I will never say that it's a bad thing to read the Bible, but I'm saying read it in context, honey. Read it in context, and then don't go into Leviticus and find a law against homosexuality when you're looking at 600 laws. I mean, how many women would have been killed by now if they adhered to the writings in Leviticus? I'm just saying, don't go pull one or two out of 600 laws. I thought you said you were free from the law. You are free of the law, honey. No longer. God, Jesus Christ said he came to do away with the law. Your faith is by your faith in Christ, honey. This is your way out. So, Tracy, I don't believe we're going to be judged by all of our actions. There are all kinds of mysteries in the world, the things we don't understand, and we may never understand. We may never understand how people like Charles Manson. So does that mean that Charles Manson can pray and accept Jesus Christ and then he won't be punished for his sins? Is Hitler sitting up in heaven somewhere? There's all kinds of questions there. Does that mean for everybody? All kinds of questions that can't be answered. All kinds of questions. We got a half a million people dead this year from coronavirus. Now, how are you going to spend that into God? Every time the Southern people, every time they had a hurricane or something, or some natural disaster, oh, it's God punishing the earth. Then they pass around the plate and you pay them for this. Girl, there are many things in this world. God said, I have given you dominion. But see how I'm using even things I heard from the Bible, right? I have given you dominion over the earth, honey. Dominion. That means you're in charge. Don't come bothering me because you got a toothache. I mean, I got a few billion things to do. Don't come bother me because of all the things that happen in life. You got to figure it out. That's why I gave you brains that work. That's why we get all this shit. Because we're progressive. You're not progressive if you're stuck in a book 6,000 years old. That ain't progress. What do you progress to? And then you're trying to pretend like you're imitating something. You're imitating nothing in there, child. You're picking out things that don't apply to you. Sodomy, getting those assholes. Well, the word sodomy comes from Sodom and Gomorrah. So just whatever you think about, they were homosexuals in Sodom and Gomorrah, you're tied into the word sodomy. You also understand that they were also raping women. The men in Sodom had lost their damn minds. They were raping men and women. You go to a prison right now, baby, if they could get a hold to a woman, they will certainly rape her. And since they can't get a hold to a woman, they will rape a man. It is in the human condition, honey. The original man came from Africa. Well, African continent. We keep thinking of Africa as the country. It's a continent, right? Including Egypt. I don't know. I don't know if all that's even necessary. I pray to God every day, every night. Thank you for saving my damn life. Thank you, God. Lead me, direct me. And it seems like all the time I'm always getting all these clues, right, of what direction to go in. But it's not like I know God said this. It's more like I feel God said this to me. He hasn't failed me yet. That's why I'm saying, oh, 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 can't turn around. We come this far by faith. We come. Okay, let me calm down. People, God is God. God is God without the book. What if they took the book away? What if all of a sudden there was no Bible? Would God still be God? Would God still have the power that God has? You know something? In 12 steps, that's the 12 steps. It was originally the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Then it becomes the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous. Then there's the 12 steps of Overeaters Anonymous, Sex Anonymous, just all these steps, all of these things. They don't go to church. But the 12 steps, they apply to having a spiritual awakening. At the end of the 12 steps, they said, after having a spiritual awakening as a result of following these steps, steps like surrendering to God, steps like praying, steps like correcting your mistakes when they happen, all of these spiritual principles, they bring you to a spiritual awakening. It has no mention of Jesus at all. Many times when people are first coming off the street, honey, you think you cuss them out, you say the name Jesus. It's not about Jesus. It's still a spiritual program. And the end result is still the same. I trust God because I trust God. He's my God. He has saved my life. And I will worship him, pray to him, ask for his guidance. You can do that without trying to pretend like you're in the Bible. I believe because black people have so little, I know it's not all a black thing, but since we had so little opportunity in the world, the only place you could really excel and be a successful black man, let's say in 40s, 50s, is to become a preacher. That was a well-respected position to have, right? So all of these guys, they couldn't make it in, they didn't see a future for themselves in many, many different kind of industries. That's changed a lot. Maybe not where it should be, but it's changed a lot. But back in the day, the thing to become was the pastor, the preacher, the man who got up in front of people and talked. And the talking people, let's face it, usually read a little bit here, read a little bit there. You could have read that yourself. I'm just telling you too. You could have read that yourself, honey. He goes up there and makes it dramatic, but now he's giving you his interpretation. He's bleeding into these words that you're reading. That's why they used to always have you read along with the man, so you are getting your own interpretation. So really, he's not even necessary. But that's what we did to become successful in the black community back in the day. Back when they had every image you saw on television of a black person was either he was shining somebody's shoes or he was somebody's maid, or that was all they would allow us to do after slavery, right? It was always that kind of thing, except the one place you would have respect is in the church. So the black men, they both migrated to the church, right? The women came for faith. And for me, I believe a lot of the men came for position. They are somebody now. Still is true. They still they're riding around in Rolls Royces, Bentleys, Ferraris, and things. You say, oh, it ain't no big deal. What kind of car you drive? $300,000. That buys a house in most states here. They are driving around in what you have worked. You got to get a 35-year mortgage to have. They get that 1 year or a couple of collections. Bootleg preachers. Yeah, people take advantage, honey. I don't have a lot of respect for preachers, to tell you the truth. You got to really come right. It's so influential. Now, there are some good ones. I used to watch T.D. Jakes. I watched him obsessively. I always watched T.D. Jakes. But he had that homophobic thing going real bad, too. Let's say 3 years ago. It was for a while there. It was in every sermon of everybody. If you go to the Word Network, you can rest assured they were going to say something about homosexual in every damn sermon, right? But that man grew. T.D. Jakes don't talk that way no more. I'm sorry, people. He don't. You find a few of them like Kim Burrell. They the diehards. But he ain't going up there saying things like no more. We have to progress, people. God wants us to progress, and that's not in the Bible. But that is the truth. He wants us to get better. If that man decided, I'm just going to stick with the word, I'm going to stay with the word, we would all be back on our own buckboards. Right? And some religions do that. They have their women in long dresses to the ground. But if they want more than one wife, then they become polygamous because that's what they want. What the hell am I talking? Did I start talking about religion? I know I'm heading for trouble. Let me see. Oh, I was talking about homophobia. Well, I guess it's the same subject. We are all sinners saved by grace, the grace of God, the gift of Jesus Christ, the gift. And when you believe it, if you can accept it, if you can accept the gift of God, your life changes. I'm telling you, that's my own experience, honey. Because I was resistant. I said, I don't believe all that hocus pocus, people jumping around, falling all over the ground, all that kind of stuff. I didn't know. But when I got into that word, honey, and this told me, if you can accept this story, if you can accept Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, he can heal you. All those stories about healing, that's all Christ. The whole thing is all about the New Testament. It's all about him delivering, touch and deliver. If I could only touch the hem of his garment, and my thinking is I touched the hem of God's garment, God in Christ. I touched, it was a moment where I felt so close. That is the moment that I accepted Jesus Christ. Everything changed. Everything changed. I walked out of Vacaville State Prison. I knew I was delivered. I hadn't called my grandmother in 17 years. I love my grandmother. I was embarrassed by my lifestyle. I hadn't called her in 17 years. I got out of prison. First thing I did, call my grandmother. It's over. It's deliverance. That power, I'm a strong believer in that, honey. I know it to be true. There ain't not no soul. I pass on the street, all these people, homeless people in San Francisco. We had a real bad problem with not only homeless people, but people with serious mental illness. I guess some of these politicians at some point have done away with all of the, I'm spitting all over myself, done away with all of the mental care facilities and so forth. I think it came with Reagan. So a lot of people on the street, God touched that person. God touch and deliver. Because he made a point of touching people who was crazy. Remember all the points that Christ made about what he could touch, what he could deliver, what he could change? Ain't nobody too far gone, honey. That very relative to who you think is an hardened crackhead, he will never walk right. That is the very one, honey. God can change that man's life. Right? So you go to church, they always say, they got their little statement. Oh, she hollered like a whore in church. Why are you disrespecting a person who was formerly a hooker in church? That's the power of God, honey. That is the power of God. And yes, those sickest ones are the ones he chooses to use as examples. I can do anything if you believe, but you got to believe it. That's all that is. You got to believe, baby. You got to get past all of your little ideas. There's some people I talk to right now. Oh, there ain't no God. Oh, it ain't. I said, girl, why is it so important to you that there ain't no God? What are you getting out of the deal? I mean, to keep repeating that there is no God, what is in it for you? But having faith is a whole lot of that. And people have, honey, there have been women getting their brains beaten out. Y'all know it to be true. Y'all live long enough. Having some man beat the shit out of them year after year after year and keep going back and going back and going back until they believed. When you believe and you ask God, God, help me, you will get up, put on some clothes, and when he goes to work, you get your ass out of that situation. Something you haven't been able to do in 20 years. God, help me. And he does that kind of thing. That's a deliverance, honey. That is definitely deliverance, because you could end up dead. We hear about it all the time. Were you able to walk away from something that you had no ability to walk away from before? That's power. And the power is in your faith. So why are you so resistant to faith? What have you got to lose, honey? Like Donald Trump said, what do you got to lose? Well, we found out about putting your faith in Trump. Nothing can separate us from the love of God. Right. If you hears, you hears, honey. Right. When you're his. And sometimes I wonder, because we've been on this thing here, I haven't been able to go to church, and then I used to have these ritual where I would listen to all this gospel music and all this kind of stuff, and I always seemed to have devotional time because I was going to church every week. And I had a responsibility there. And my mind was just more full with God all the time. But God ain't left me. And now I'm starting to wonder, I mean, what is the point of church, really? Or do I really need it? Now I miss it because I like the coming together. Do not forsake the assembly. I like a lot of things about church, but when I leave, do I still have God if I don't go to church? Do I still have God if I don't read the Bible, the ancient stories? I mean, why do I have to read that same story over and over and over again? I mean, if I read a book, a book of fiction, after I read it twice, I know the story. Why do I got to read this book over and over and over for 50, 60 years? Do I have to do that? No, I can still know God. He's my God, honey. He's my God, and he's your God. Right? Lord, I just slipped off the preacher. I'm sorry. It's been a while, though. Yes, I wonder, well, do I need all that stuff? And maybe not, maybe so. I mean, my mother used to, I mean, she got saved before I did, but, and she had a mouth on her when we were young, but she got saved. She stayed saved, right? And she never missed church and things like that. She's 80 something now, so 80. But she don't go to church anymore. Does that mean she's any less saved than she was when she was going every week? Well, my grandmother, she must have went 60 years. At some point, she couldn't drive anymore. It was hard for her to get to church. Was she any less saved when she stopped going to church than when she was going every week, giving her all her money? No, it's the same thing, honey. When God comes, he's just there. You just haven't he was always there. Because frankly, I probably should have been killed in the streets. I felt the presence of God even then when I was in the streets. I could have easily been killed. Because at one point, I was making good money. Those people in the street, they'll kill you for $1,000. Honey, they will kill your ass for $1,000 if they can get away with it. Right? And yet I was able to survive. And when God took me out of that damn thing, it took an act. It took an act of me being robbed with somebody hitting a beer bottle over my head. But I can't say that guy coming from between two parked cars in the Tenderloin and smashing a beer bottle over my head to rob me. I can't say that was a bad thing, right? Because from that day, my life has been changed. It was that, and then it was church inside of the prison, though. But it was all that whole period was my deliverance. So was that a bad thing he hit me, or was it a good thing? Because if he hadn't attacked me or hit me in the head with a bottle, I probably wouldn't even be here. I wouldn't even survive it. Because that was 25 years ago. No, 20 years ago. I wouldn't have survived out there. Anyway. You're right. I done went on one. That was me. I survived. Praise God. That's right, honey. If I die today, like Tupac say, if I die today, honey, I'm going to be holding on to God. And y'all say, oh, everybody say that. No, honey. Gamage Carter, I don't know if I think he's at work. I don't know if he just popped in or not. He can tell you. When I had that cancer recently, 3 years ago, they had done the surgery, right? And what happened, I don't know how I was, when they do surgery on you, they give you all these fluids, right? All this water to pump your saline, to pump your body up full. I guess it makes it easy for them to cut into you and all this kind of stuff. Well, something happened and I was retaining water, right? I couldn't pee. Nothing was coming out. I had all these fluids in me. And and they had to rush me to what was it? Urgent care or something like that. Baby, I was right there on that gurney, praying to God as these people were cutting me open again to release all this water and rushing me to urgent care. I was ready to go. I told my friend Gamage was in the elevator with me. I said, do I tell him to take care of Jimmy? My other dog was still alive. My other dog was alive and had cancer. Just take care of Jimmy. My keys are such and such place. I thought I was going, but I wasn't panicking about that. I wasn't miserable about that, honey. I was trusting. I said, God saved me. He loves me. I don't give a goddamn what these people say. I don't need nobody to tell me shit. No preacher needs to tell me nothing, honey. God saved my life, and I was trusting in him. Him, the one that saved me. That don't go away. That experience will never go away. We all fall short of the glory of God. I ain't mad at people that want to go and have religion though. Yeah, that old time religion is good enough for me. A lot of these mothers out here trying to raise these badass kids. I mean, excuse me about your children. They're trying to teach them some sense of morality. When you go into the church, most of it, I mean, to be honest, when you go into the average church in the United States, the average black church, I can't speak on other churches because it's not where I attend. Black churches, almost the whole audience are women. They're mostly women. A few men in there looking miserable, want to go watch the game. Mostly women, right? And then all of the leadership, they're all men. So these women, they go and they feel like they're turning their life over to these men to give them direction and so forth, because there's not a man in the house. There's all kind of reasons to go to church, you know. And I can understand that. You're trying to raise a family, whatever. But a lot of things that we thought were necessary are no longer necessary. There are people. Does the Bible say that the earth is flat? That was the argument for many years. They said, well, the Bible said the earth is flat. Now, if you stand out on a clear day and look at the ocean, you can see the curvature of the ocean. You're looking right at it. You can see that the earth is round. I've seen it many times. I can't see out of here because I have mountains in the background kind of thing. But you can see the curvature of the earth if you look out over the ocean. But for years and years and years, the Bible said. Now, I never read that in the Bible. I don't know. But it said the Bible said the earth is flat. And that's what they believed. You're right. I got to read that one. Okay. This is Behind the Throne, one of our dear friends here. How is homosexuality more damning than, sorry, y'all, but adultery, murder, stealing, fornication, and not all gays engage in sex. Some are celibate and some virgin. And yet still, Lord, testify, Timothy Blaine. Tell it. I ain't had sex. I definitely have not had sex for 10 years because I lived in this apartment 10 years. But even before that, the whole 20, I've been clean, 19, I've been clean. I ain't had no sex, right? I am just as gay as I was when I was having sex every other day. It doesn't change, honey. Gay is it's more than sex because I don't have sex. Your attraction is your gay. So when you turn on your pornography movies and you find yourself looking at the guys, okay, that's your gay. You're looking at the women, that's your heterosexual. You find it attractive. You ain't got to do nothing to it. And there's so many other things that you could be guilty of, honey. Did Jesus say, if you even look at a woman with lust in your eyes, if you admire those breasts, you say, oh, those are nice titties. Girl, you just sinned. Now, why aren't you plucking your eyes out? Adultery. Now, I think the people have a right to say, well, listen, if you're going to be the pastor, maybe if you're going to be the pastor, if we're going to be tithing, you say I'm tithing money to God, but really I'm tithing the money to you, your organization, your church. Maybe we can expect you to set a good example for the church. I mean, I'm trying to teach my kids here. So these preachers, one's supposed to be in charge, they're constantly getting caught with their drawers down. And if you talk to some of these first ladies, honey, if they are able to be honest, because they have a vested investment in these people. If they're able to be honest, honey, they don't feel comfortable with their husband tracing all around the country. You think these hoes and stuff ain't getting picked up? What do you think a hoe is? I mean, a prostitute is, honey. That's where they get their money from, married men. If they're any kind of decent looking person, they ain't out there buying prostitutes. That's married men. And a lot of these preachers, when they go to these towns, They don't know nobody in the town. Nobody knows them. They're not familiar with their face. Girl, we catch them every other week. What's that guy, Dawson Denise? Watch him. Dawson Denise, Larry Reed Live, and King Jives, and all. There's always a story about these guys. They ain't holy. Stop using holy. Just say I love God. I do my best. I'm trying to do better for my family. Don't be ever talking about you holy. Oh, I'm from holiness. I'm from girl. There ain't nothing holy about you, child. God is holy. God has told you what you are. You are sin. Every damn thing you do is sin. It's all gathering riches for yourself. It's all lust. It's all being a human being. You ain't God. Stop pretending to be your God. You're going to let yourself down, honey. Ain't nothing holy about you. Women don't cheat like men do. Take it however you want to take it. A lot of people say, oh, yes, they do. Yeah, well, maybe yours did. But as a general rule, men cheat a whole lot more. They ain't holy. I'm a sinner trying to do better, honey. Even my old ass. I sit up in this house. I don't go no damn where. I don't do nothing. But I'm sure I probably broke 5 or 6 sins since I got on this computer. I said, oh, you said a bad word. Oh, was that a sin too? God damn. I mean, what can I do? Oh, tell me what can I do? Oh, tell me what can I do? And not be sinning. If you have to do it with your eyeballs, that means you would have to take your computer out of your house, move that television set into the garage. Let me see. Sodomy, all up in the asshole. And people, stop with this sodomy. Yes, men don't have a pussy, so I'm using that language because I know it gets the point across. A man don't have no pussy, so yes, he's having sex. He can be oral, but he's sodomizing someone. Sodomy, they just gave that word to homosexuals, but they ain't got to do with homosexual. It got to do with anal sex, right? If you go to your porn stations, right? And some of you do, even you women, some of you go to your porn station, you will see that straight people, they sodomize just as much as men do these days. In fact, when they practice sodomy, they don't get pregnant. So a lot of them would prefer the sodomy. They have anal sex all the time. It's not even unusual, people. Do your research. They do it just as much. Sin of Sodom and Gomorrah was inhospitality, rape. Right. You can't equate rape with homosexuality. Homosexuality is the attraction of two people to the same race. It ain't got nothing to do with you raping angels or women or men. Most of the homosexuality we hear about in the Bible is people being raped or abused in some way. People come in there and they conquer your village or your town or whatever, and they take all your money and then they rape you and fuck you in your ass. It is to humiliate you. It is an act of violence. That's not a homosexual. I don't even know that word. I don't think homosexual even appeared. Y'all changed it to that years later. Even Paul, what was Paul talking about? Paul was talking about, y'all love Paul, but Paul was killing Christians, right? He was talking about, I think it's in, I forget what book. It's been a while, people. He was saying that the men had lost their attraction to women and were being attracted to men. The women were being attracted to each other. And this was a sin, right? That can happen today. There are times when men who are heterosexual, they're men who like women, right? When they go to the prison, they're changing their sexual preference. They begin to lust after men. Why? Because they can't get anything else, and that's all they're going to get. So it is possible to do that. Is that the sin? Is that the sin when you hear that, Oh, this guy, he'll pay me $500 to suck my whatever. And you have now a heterosexual man and went out and had sex with another man, not because that is your attraction. Oh shit, today's ooh, I'm late. I gotta go. People, I'm late for a group. Hold on one second. Hello?
Hey, Ted.
Hey, I forgot all about it. I'll be right there.
All right.
People, I'm a facilitator of a group, and a Zoom group, and I have forgotten all about it. It starts at 10:30, so I got to go right now. Y'all have a good day. Maybe we'll come back and see you later. Thanks for the service. Bye.